Good morning, everyone. It's day 16 of our quarantine story time. Today I'm going to do Paddington and the Tutti Frutti Rainbow. One day, Mr. Brown took Paddington and all the family to the seaside for a treat. Paddington sat in the front seat of the car with Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Bird, who looked after them, sat in the back with Jonathan and Judy. But when they got to the seaside, it was raining hard and there was a gale blowing. "Some treat," said Mrs. Bird as she held onto her hat. "Look," cried Paddington, "that man's hair has blown away." "Shh," hissed Judy. "His hair hasn't blown away. He's bald." But Paddington pulled his duffel coat up around his face. He didn't want his whiskers to blow away. "Let's go in this cafe," said Mrs. Brown. "At least we'll be dry." Paddington looked back at the sea. It was very rough. "I think I'll put my armbands on, just in case the tide comes in," he said. As they sat down at a table, Mr. Brown pointed to a picture on the wall. It showed an ice cream called a Tutti Frutti Sundae. "If you can say that, Paddington," he said, "I'll buy you one as a treat." It was the biggest ice cream Paddington had ever seen, and he tried several times to say it. Tutti Frutti, Footy Tooty, Flutty Tutty. But the more he tried, the harder it was. "I think I may have a cornet instead, Mr. Brown," he said sadly. "It isn't easy saying Tutti Frutti Sundae." Everyone laughed. And because in the end he had said it properly, the girl brought him an extra large sundae on a tray. "I couldn't get any more ice cream into the glass," she said. "What a kind nurse!" exclaimed Paddington. "She's not a nurse," said Judy. "She's a waitress. Nurses look after people who are ill." "If Paddington eats all that," said Jonathan, "he'll need a nurse." Paddington gave Jonathan a hard stare. "Bears are good at eating ice cream," he said. At that moment, the sun came out. "I think it's going to be a nice day after all," said Mrs. Brown. "Look, there's a rainbow." "Quick, Paddington," said Mrs. Brown. "Look, before it goes away." Paddington stared out of the window. He had never seen a rainbow before. "It looks just like my Tutti Frutti Sundae," he said. "And it disappears nearly as quickly," said Mrs. Bird as the rainbow began to fade. "You must make a wish," said Judy, "before the rainbow goes." "Then we can play on the beach," said Jonathan. "I wish," said Paddington happily, "I wish I could have a Tutti Frutti rainbow every day of the week." The end.